Look, there isn't a bigger problem than successful reproduction. It is the big problem.
Now, my dude, what is it that we're seeing behind me over there? Man, dude, that's right. It's a field of sunflowers. Look at these sunflowers. What is the characteristics of these specific flowers? Well, their characteristics, man, is that they're open. They're open to receive the sunlight, open to the embrace of life. You know what's not open? It's the legs of these broads who are very stingy with their affection. No matter how many times you look into their eyes and say, hey baby, you know, your fucking eyes look like the sky, that shit. Man, they're gonna fucking show you the door. And the door is into a miserable place, man, of just kind of continuing with your fucking masturbation habits. And we've had enough of that. What's going on there, man? I come over there, I see a dame, I'm like, did it hurt when you fell from heaven? And she just fucking looks at me. What's wrong? You know, what kind of a compliment would you pay me if you had to interact with me? That's the fucking problem, man. There's miscommunication. There's a lot of things going on. And now Jordan Peterson has a solution to this. He calls it enforced monogamy. It's like, why am I sitting here alone when there could be a honey on my lap? This would promote civilization. This would drive us forward, man. And that's what's going on. I'm kind of getting, I'm getting into this enforced monogamy thing, especially like the enforced part, because even though I do believe in total consent, sometimes they're kind of well, here's the thing, man, all right? You're sitting here, maybe you've been infected with cultural Marxism, and you're saying, man, enforced monogamy, what if the girl doesn't want to bang this guy? Well, what's going on, man? Maybe everybody shouldn't deserve a partner. Well, motherfucker, you sit there with that fucking cerebral fucking fancy pants attitude, man, until some Mr. Blue Balls fucking runs you over with a fucking cargo van, man. Your fucking ass is gonna be imprinted on the tires, or the other way around. And who really will give a shit, man? Because, like, you know, when a fucking cargo van charges at you with a very frustrated man who just have seen chads getting all the rewards, man. Well, it doesn't matter what's imprinted where, because your ass is fucking dead, man. You're going to see the archetypal Jesus, man. Fucking high five the fucking celestial lobster on your way there. And this is exactly what we're talking about. And these are the exact words of Professor Peterson. He said women should put out to the fucking incels. It's enforced monogamy. This is what Jordan Peterson said. There are no fucking fabrications on my end. I wouldn't lie about something like this on this channel, where the words of Dr. Peterson are fucking sacred, man. Fucking sacred. It's just every tweet of Peterson, man, I kind of get an epileptic fit, I get a fucking orgasm, and I don't need even a broad. You know, I don't even need enforced monogamy when I'm looking at Peterson's Twitter. My sweet dudes, in a quick second, we're gonna leap into that Peterson wisdom. Don't worry about it, I'll just take a few fucking moments of your time to talk about my personal life. Nowadays, my whole Facebook life primarily rotates around my channel page. You know, just a few hours ago, I posted a link to a true crime documentary that I liked. And I'm sure if I were to check it right now, there would be no reaction there whatsoever. But that's kind of where I hang out on Facebook. It's my fucking channel page. But I also have a personal page on Facebook, dude. Now I ignore that shit. It used to be a creative outlet, and now when I read my angry posts about Trump being elected, I just cringe and I fucking delete that shit. So I mean, it's just a fucking dirty rag. It's like what in Yiddish you'd call it a schmata. My fucking Facebook page, my personal Facebook page. But I decided to glance in there. Dude, what do I see? It's a post from my American stepbrother. You see, one of my parents is married to a real-life American, and I have American step-siblings. And what do I see? Man, there are some sweet pictures there from a 4th of July celebration, man. And there are like a lot of people there that I've known, and they're all looking different. And it was just interesting to see everybody playing with the kids. And now you're asking, where was I at this point? Have I been rejected from my American family? Well, no, you see the celebration, dude. happened at my house while I was in there. But instead of interacting with anybody, I just fucking hid in my room. I just fucking stayed in my room the whole fucking time and never fucking ventured out there. So I was kind of looking, I was like, hey, everybody looks happy. I was just in the backyard here, dude, while I was just sitting here fucking looking at my YouTube analytics or whatever the fuck. Another fucking wasted day in my life, dude. But I did have a visitor for the 4th of July who also wanted to get away from other people. And that's the family cat. And so I have included a video of my 4th of July celebration with my family cat in my disgusting room where I'm filming right now. And you'll see fucking disgusting dirty carpets, man. These carpets need to be changed, dude. But hopefully when I'm not here, because it's just I'll have to move all my fucking furniture. Maybe I'll fucking block out the carpets if I'm not too lazy with the video editor. My dudes, if you want to stick around, there's going to be a quick presentation at the end of the video. But let's leap into Peterson, all right?
What I guess they call themselves incels, involuntary celibates. When all this stuff went down, when this guy drove his car into a group of people, it's a horrible tragedy. One of the things that you talked about with incels is that, and this was a part of the what was it? It was a New York Times hit piece.
Yeah.
You said one of the cures for this is enforced monogamy. Mm-hmm. People decided, and I had never heard that term before, quite honestly, and I was like, well, what the fuck does that mean?
Yeah, exactly, Joe. What the fuck does it mean?
It's a psychological term, and what it means is enforced by culture, that it is a good value.
Monogamy, yeah, because
Right.
polygamous societies tend to become ultra-violent.
Yeah.
And that's been known in the anthropological literature for 100 years. And certainly leftist anthropologists were among those who discovered it.
Even the leftist anthropologists who were trudging through the jungle, very thirsty for booty, very invested in polygamy, were really cucked when they discovered the ultra-violence in their data.
Like, the journalist knew perfectly well what I meant by enforced monogamy. She's
but
not stupid.
You use it as if everybody would understand it because you're an intellectual and because you're a professor and this is what you do.
It was also 2 minutes out of a 2-day conversation.
Yes,
It's like, so it was
that's all
something
she
we just
needed.
glanced over. Well, it's so that was funny in some sense.
As a long-term observer, student, and follower of Jordan Peterson, I can tell you exactly how this phrase enforced monogamy emerged. Now, Professor Peterson was there, sitting with this lady journalist, and they were just yapping for a long time. And you know what Professor Peterson likes to do? He has to fucking shake the boat, dude. He has to kind of give us that edge. He has to fucking unleash the lobster after a while. So he was just sitting there, and they were talking about incels. And now a normal person would say, well, they're just a bunch of assholes or whatever. But Peterson, he wanted to go a little bit further. There needs to be some big idea, dude. You gotta push it a little bit edgier, man. You have to make it a little bit edgier. And that's when he's like, well, this is what we need, is enforced monogamy. It was just a neat phrase, appeared in the mind of Professor Peterson, and he just kind of gave it to this reporter. And just as he gave her this gift, this new Peterson red pill, he knew that it's gonna make her vomit. He was just being provocative. It's Edgelord Peterson, man. Fucking Edgelord Peterson in the house. And just as he was giving her the red pill, the dark professor was already anticipating the sweet spanking he's gonna receive from that liberal journalist. He's like, oh, did I drop a good one there? And then when he receives the spanking and half of the article is about the stupid, enforced monogamy, Peterson is like, what did you expect? It's just these guys. They completely misunderstand me once again. It's the sweet fucking Peterson archetypal mainstream media spanking. This is what Peterson likes to leap in there with the Vice interview. He's like, women shouldn't wear makeup. They're like, what the fuck do you mean? And then he's like, fucking, and now motherfucker has $10,000 more coming in on Patreon. And this is like on a smaller scale, but that's kind of how it works.
Because my sense is if you want to pillory someone, you should attribute to them views that someone somewhere has had. And the implication of that part of the New York Times article was that I wanted to, take nubile young women at the point of a gun under state enforcement and deliver them
Yes.
to useless men. It's like
Yes.
no one has ever believed that.
Maybe Peterson is right, or maybe I just haven't been on Stefan Molyneux's channel in a while.
So
but it
attributing
sounds like that. It's the optics of that statement are very bad. But the question is, why wasn't there follow-up questions? And if there was follow-up questions to get you to define what you mean by enforced monogamy.
Well, there were. They just
were.
didn't make it into the piece.
Well, that's a real problem.
Yeah, it's a real problem.
That's a real problem because that
Well,
is
it's so ridiculous because
it's an inaccurate definition of who you are.
Well, one of the things I've said continually, and this is on record in multiple places, it's like, okay, so you're a young man, and all the women are rejecting you. Who's got the problem?
Who's got the problem, motherfucker? You got the problem when I run your ass over with a cargo van. All I ever wanted to do is take a cunt by her hand and walk on the beach like a normal Chad.
It's not all the women. That's
Right.
a bad road to go down. If all the women are rejecting you, it's you.
We both agree on this, but why is enforced monogamy the solution for people that are involuntary celibates?
Well, it's the solution to the relationship between men and women. Fundamentally, is monogamous social
but these
norms.
men are unattractive. If these
Oh,
men
well,
are
the solution
unattractive
to them-
but if these men are unattractive to women, I don't mean just physically unattractive. I mean women aren't seeking them as mates. They need to become men.
Yes, they certainly do.
This is
That's
what it
the
is.
solution.
That's the solution.
Absolutely,
and we
man.
both agree on this. So,
Yes, but they need to do that in a society where monogamy is the social norm.
But isn't
that's
it
all.
the social norm anyway?
Well, that was partly my point.
That was your point. Peterson, what is your fucking point? You see, here's what's gonna happen now. Now, there is this kind of an idea that Peterson, this kind of stupid balloon that Peterson has released into the air called enforced monogamy. As Joe Rogan is going to point out 100 times, we already have monogamous norms. Monogamy is the norm, all right? Maybe monogamous norms sounded stupid. Well, fuck it, dude. I'm not going to do a second take just to look smart. Why do I give a shit? Well, monogamy is the norm. And this is what they're going to fucking talk over and over again right now. Fucking Rogan is going to say, monogamy is the norm. And Peterson is going to say, well, polygamy is bad for children. And then Rogan is going to say, monogamy is the norm. And then Peterson is going to say, fucking polygamy is bad for children. Like, this is going to go over and over and over right now. This is the disaster that we're headed to. But the reason all of us are wasting our time with this is just that Peterson can't say that it was just a goofy idea. Like, that it's a meaningless idea. It's meaningless to emphasize monogamy when practically every single person is monogamous. When the average person doesn't know any polygamous people, right? It's just pointless to kind of criticize fucking polygamy in this instance. It's just utterly useless. It's just fucking like criticizing fucking Russian kielbasa or something. It would be as relevant to people's lives as making this point about polygamy. But again, Peterson just can't back down. He can't say it really doesn't matter. It's just something I said and let's just talk about something else. That's not in the style of Peterson. So let's fucking talk about how fucking detrimental polygamy is to our fucking society.
I don't think they're related, quite honestly. I don't think that involuntary celibates, I don't think that having enforced monogamy as a part of our cultural norm is going to help those people. I really don't.
It does.
How's it going to help them?
Well, because what happens is if a polygamous society develops, which is the alternative, then a small minority of men get all the women. That's what happens.
Oh, okay, I could see that.
That's the only point that I was making.
This theoretical world where polygamous societies exist en masse, and then you do have this problem where there's a small group of men that are fucking all the women. But that's not what we're talking
And
about.
also making the women unhappy, right? Because the women don't have any access to a genuine, intimate, one-to-one relationship over any long period of time.
The thing about Dr. Peterson is that he went to some of the best universities in North America. He went to Harvard, he went to McGill University, as I recall. I mean, he has a PhD. And yet when he talks to like people like Joe Rogan or gives his lectures, I mean, everything just fucking sounds like fucking cafeteria talk. That is to say that, like, cafeteria talk at a university, and not even among graduate students, but like undergraduates, where you say some kind of grandiose thing that is very goofy and stupid upon analysis. and but you say it in a very serious way, as if like the fate of the world is being decided here. So it's like in a polygamous societies in totality never existed, as far as I know. When we're talking about a mass scale of human societies, the vast majority of people were monogamous. And then there were a certain minority of polygamous, basically men, who had multiple wives. So they were, you know, by and large an exception, and they certainly never fucking took all the women, you know, at the time. I mean, that's just ridiculous. So like 10% of men would have like, well, whatever, like 60% of the women. I mean, what are we fucking talking about here?
Which
So it
is
doesn't
what the
work well.
women want. It's the whole idea is
and
that
what's best
the
for
women
kids,
want
too.
that. Right, sure, if you have children.
Right.
But I still don't think that is why these men are involuntary celibates, and I don't think it's the solution to that. I think the solution is that they need to become attractive to women.
Yes, that is the solution.
Yes.
There's no doubt about that.
I don't think the two are related.
Well, I was making a minor point. The minor point was that one of the ways that societies around the world have figured out that you keep young male aggression under control is by enforcing monogamous standards, because it gives everyone a chance in some sense. So that's the
It
only
gives
point
everyone
that I
a
was
chance,
making.
meaning it clears more women will be available for one-on-one relationships.
Yeah, Joe, you're getting it. I mean, this is the whole Peterson's big idea, that if everybody's paired up, there's going to be more women available. Like, this is exactly what you've been fucking wasting your time fucking talking about. These are the deep ideas of Dr. Peterson in 21st century fucking Western world.
Rather than one guy who is some, whatever, for whatever reason,
Yeah,
some
well, you see
large
this.
figure in society.
Yeah, well, you see this happening in universities where women outnumber men. So the men hypothetically have more sexual opportunity, but that isn't what happens. What happens is that a small minority of men have all the sexual opportunity. A fairly large minority of men don't. The women are unhappy because they can't find a committed relationship. It's bad for most of the men, and the men who have all the sexual opportunity get cynical.
So Jordan Peterson is a clinical psychologist. Does he have any data to prove any of these like grandiose fucking claims that kind of reduces college sexual behavior to some sort of a fucking gorilla cage at a zoo? Now, does he have anything to back this up with? Because the way he actually sounds is like a sexually deprived nerd who learned about the theory of evolution and scanned some fucking articles on Wikipedia about evolutionary psychology and shit like that. Like, it's just a cartoonish view of what's going on. Do you know how many, like, on average, how many sexual partners people have in America? The average number, it's like fucking 8 to 10 throughout their whole life, throughout the whole life. So there's just not kind of this great kind of, these are lifetime numbers, okay? So there's just not this kind of great banging going on, in spite of the fact that our kind of culture is oversaturated with sex and sexual images. People are actually having perhaps less sex than they did even a generation ago. Like, millennials are having less sex than their predecessor, and that could actually explain in part the incel community. Like, it's just not this fucking evolutionary jungle where some high status males are fucking everybody. That's just not happening. Now, of course, yeah, there are some dudes who get laid. Motherfucker, if you bagged over 8 broads, dude, you went for the hog, dude. You fucking lowered your standards. Anybody who has sex with over 8 people in their lives, they're dirty, they're filthy, they have fucking herpes, they're fucking racist. My dudes, a while back I was living in Seattle, and like much of my life I've just spent my fucking time there in a kind of a melancholy fog. And since there's a lot of fog in Seattle anyway, it kind of nicely jived with everything. I didn't have a car, and I would just wander around like a zombie around this beautiful city. And one time, in my ramblings, I saw a Starbucks. Now, I don't normally go to a fucking Starbucks, and going to Starbucks in Seattle, where the whole thing originated, is especially vomitous. But I guess I needed a drink or something, so I just fucking went in there. My dude, I saw a guy there with a fucking gigantic fucking herpes sore. you know, it was just fucking huge, man. I was like, what the fuck? And then, like, out of politeness, I mean, of course, I'm not gonna say, oh, don't serve me my fucking iced tea or whatever the fuck I ordered. You have a huge fucking herpes sore. But it's just fucking, you know, I just fucking remember that shit to this day. What a disaster, dude. What a fucking disaster. Anyway, what this has to do with anything, it doesn't. Now you've just heard that story. I mean, I was really shocked, man. What happened was that I was just walking around in the days, and suddenly, like, boom, like a terrorist attack or something, or seeing somebody hit by a car. It was just my whole day kind of fucking came into fucking focus. Everything was fucking 2020 now, motherfucker. Anyway, I was just like, what the fuck, dude? So this is it, my man. You think you're a big player there with bagging like 10 broads. Dude, you fucking have low standards. And that's what a lot of these womanizers, that's a lot of what's going on, man. They're not reaching for the top shelf, dude. They're going for the fucking bottom shelf, my man. They're assholes, they're fucking racists. They hate Australian Aborigines. That's what they're all about, those people who are getting laid. Fuck them.
But isn't this in some ways against your whole idea of equality of outcome? Because you're talking about equality of sexual outcome. If it's a man who doesn't want a family and enjoys dating multiple women, why is that bad?
Well, I think the fundamental reason it's bad is because it's bad in the long run for children.
It's bad for children if he chooses to have children.
Yeah, well,
that
that's
makes
it.
sense.
But that's it. That's the fundamental issue as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
And I think it's the answer. Look, to give the journalist credit, that is the point she was making. You know, apart from pillaring me and caricaturing my perspective, that was the point she was making. Well, first of all, I'm not in favor of unbridled hierarchies. Like I already said, that, you know, the proclivity of a hierarchy is that all the spoils go to the person at the top,
right,
and that can destabilize the whole structure.
Yes.
So we have to have a dialogue about how to rectify that.
The thing is, we don't really need to have a dialogue about this because everybody's fucking monogamous. People might have a string of affairs, but then they, like, generally speaking, settle down with somebody, except with a few exceptions. And the thing about these incels is, in fact, there is no kind of a woman that has been stolen from them by a polygamous guy, you know, who's living in some fucking Bob's fucking harem. That just didn't happen. You know, we don't live in fucking Utah in the 19th century. It didn't happen. What happened is that these fucking incels, they just have high standards. You know, in an incel world, you know, like in a Hollywood movie, like some dudes say, hey, you know, we're gonna meet some girls. And then they go to a bar and they're fucking, you know, really, you know, fucking premium ladies. They're very hot. It's like you're just like, hey, you know, let's go meet some girls at a fucking club. And then there's like fucking Megan Fox and whoever the fuck, Jennifer Lawrence. I don't give a shit. You know, I don't give a shit about any of them. But well, I like Megan Fox. She has a predisposition toward depression. I find it sexy. She's a very bright girl, dude, if you listen to her. Very articulate, okay? I like Megan Fox. You know, well, fuck it. Let's just fucking forget it. What the fuck was I saying anyway? Well, yeah. So this is kind of the world, the delusion that the incels live in. And so when they talk about they can't meet women or get together with women, they're fucking reaching for that top shelf, dude. But you don't belong in that top shelf, you fucking ugly-faced motherfucker. You have to fucking... What you need to do is, like, sneak around in Walmart in a plus-size section and then just fucking pop out there and say, hey, baby, I got just the right fit for you. With fucking some sweatpants or something that could actually, like, fit different sizes. This is what they need to do. They don't want it. You know, it's easier for them to jump in the gutter of self-pity and just kind of roll around in there and just bemoan the chads and the women and the whole society. It's easier for them to do that than date a frumpy girl. That's basically it, man. That's the whole fucking dilemma. You know, some of them might really have some horrible facial disfigurements or whatever, but most of them are just kind of average to low average looking guys with horrible personality. Oh yeah, they can find somebody, but they just don't want to find the people that are on offer given what they got. That's the whole fucking thing. It's not polygamy, my dude. It's just meeting reality in the face.
You're almost forcing an inequality of outcome.
I know. That was her point too. To the degree that she had a point, that was her point. Now, but it doesn't run contrary to my opinions that the issue of outcome has to be addressed. I already said there needs to be a reason for the left and the right. And that the problem with hierarchies is that they can get too steep and destabilize everything.
Right.
That does happen. That particularly happens in the sexual domain. And there's plenty of anthropological evidence for that. But you still might say, well, who cares? Because the men who are winning should be allowed to win and the women should be allowed to choose. It's
Right.
like, yes, except that there's the problem of children. And so society steps in on behalf of the children. And you can say, well, lots of people don't want to have children. And yes, and that's truer now than it used to be, although many of those people end up having children anyways, you know, the guys who are sleeping
Yes.
around all the time, so that doesn't circumvent the problem. But the issue here for me isn't the men or the women, it's the children. And we're trying to set up societies where the probability that children will be raised in something approximated an optimal environment is optimized. And that's going to mean sacrifice of opportunity and choice on the part of adults.
So now I want you to notice something. And this is just the whole stupidity of the whole Peterson movement. Because right now, they were effectively talking about something else aside polygamy. That is to say, lack of commitment in a monogamous relationship, which is a complete fucking deviation from that which was discussed earlier. That is to say, you know, like if somebody abandons their children, for example, a male, which is, you know, what tends to happen when somebody abandons their children, though of course women can abandon their children too. Everybody can do it. I'm not fucking being sexist or whatever. But when that happens, it's not like he's like, oh, I'm leaving to start a fucking harem. He's just going into another monogamous relationship. It's just serial monogamy, which has nothing to do with fucking incels, and has nothing to do with polygamy whatsoever. Like, what percentage of American children are raised in a polygamous environment? And so this is like the thing about Peterson, is that he just kind of starts rambling incoherently, and just kind of rambles from one point to another. And at every point, for his kind of true disciples, it seems to them that he's making sense, even though in this case, he just slid away completely from the original topic.
It's necessary.
I agree with you, but I think that what we're talking about mirrors what we're talking about in sports. It mirrors what we're talking about in business. It's everything else. There's going to be people that are better at all different aspects of life. There's going to be people that are talented in terms of like getting women to like them.
Yes, that's true. Well, that's why also, look, you see this.
Right.
Women are hypergamous, which means they mate across and up dominance hierarchies. And so if you're a male who's successful in a given hierarchy, the probability that you're going to have additional mating opportunities is exceptionally high. It's an unbelievably good predictor of that.
That hypergamy is a very uncomfortable discussion.
Yes, it certainly is.
It's
It doesn't
very
matter.
uncomfortable.
Well, there's plenty of uncomfortable
but
discussions to be had.
That's a big one, though.
It is.
The idea that it defines women's sexual choices by the fact that they want bigger, better. They want someone who's more successful, someone who's higher on the social ladder than what they're accustomed to or what they have.
Yeah, well,
now.
what women do is that, like, mate choice is a very difficult problem. So how do you solve it? Well, here's how women solve it. Throw them in a ring, let them compete at whatever they're competing at, assume that the man who wins is the best man, marry him.
Yes.
It's a brilliant solution.
What the fuck, man? Like, I'm honestly out of words or like facial expression or like any shitty jokes to describe like this Peterson's sheer kind of fucking string of lobster bullshit that just comes out of him at a rapid rate. Like what he just described as a universal female trait. Like, ask yourself, what relevance does it have to any relationship with a lady you had, or to any relationships in your family or among your friends? Like, what fucking ring, what competition is he talking about? Like, a lady who fucking marries an accountant, is she like, well, let's see who fucking can fill out this tax form at the quickest pace or some shit? Like, what are we fucking talking about, man? Like, are you fucking insane? You know, what kind of a fucking sexual fucking thunderdome goes on in your stupid head, Peterson? And to reduce it to this kind of fucking competition is so stupid. And this also, this idea about women who want to be on their societal level or up as far as their potential partner. Well, fucking man, if there's a statistical relationship or statistical gap between men and women in this regard, which again, Peterson never talks in terms of data. He never ever fucking, hardly ever presents any fucking data. But let's say that there was. I'm sure it's fucking tiny and statistically insignificant. Because, you know, it's like when Peterson walks around the halls of academia, to the extent that he's there, aside from ranting about fucking cultural Marxists, like, you know, how often does it happen that you kind of talk to a male professor and you ask, like, who is your wife nowadays? Like, who are you married to? And he's like, oh, she's a fucking a waitress at Applebee's. That doesn't happen. That might have happened when women had less of an access to education and opportunities. But in upper ranks of society, that hardly ever happens, that there's going to be a huge educational gap between the man and the woman. They're still going to be basically from the same overall class.
It's a market-oriented solution. It's actually the solution that appears to have driven our evolutionary departure from chimpanzees.
It's a biological solution.
It's a biological solution, but it has a cost.
What is the cost?
Well, the cost is polygamy. And so we rein that in with enforced monogamy. And we do that in order to provide stable circumstances for children.
Said something completely idiotic. He said, this is something that caused our evolutionary departure from chimpanzees. There was no fucking evolutionary departure from chimpanzees for humans. We didn't evolve from chimpanzees. We evolved from a distant ancestor that then created different fucking chains of evolution coming out of it that resulted in humans and chimpanzees. And I hardly fucking... So what is he fucking saying? That the chimpanzees are more monogamous than humans or something? That the kind of the cartoonish jungle alpha hierarchy that he's imposing on humans is less present in the chimpanzees? You know what I mean? Like, with this guy, it's not even like philosophical disagreements. It's just he often says things that are utterly and completely fucking, profoundly fucking idiotic.
Say you're married and you have children with your husband, but you also have an affair. And so you have a child by another man. That's more common than anyone suspected. So part of the way that women solve the problem that you're just describing, and I'm not saying anything for this or against this, this is a purely factual biological claim, is they pick a monogamous marriage and they cheat with high status guys.
Old San Francisco, BC. I lived with my true love and she lived with me. Romance is the douche of the bourgeoisie, was the very first thing she imparted to me. We had sarcastic hair, we used pseudonyms, we got a lot of stares on the street back then. Since her dad, a local barber, had been beaten to death, she had become a vocal martyr in the vegan press. The cops had failed, they couldn't catch a bus. They were looking for a male with a bad haircut and her tumbleweed. Exit love and our affair d'amour was set on self-destruct. She said, you don't make enough to provide for me. I said, what about the stuff that we quote believe? She said, I left that on the sands of history. I found a new man who'd take care of me. He dresses for success and emergency, and he moves a lot of concrete on the QVC.
I don't even know what to say. Like, I'm fucking done with Peterson. This is just, it's always happens to me for some reason. I'm very zen when I'm editing these clips. Like, sometimes I'm tired and uninspired. Didn't mean that to rhyme. But yeah, and I just kind of like drudge through it. And then when I actually start reacting to them, not just in my head, but vocally, I become more and more unhinged. And this last part, I just can't respond to it. Like, I'm just out of things to say, and well, I guess I have one thing to say. Like, with this kind of very distant and nerdy perception of male-female relationships, kind of a incel-like. I'm not saying that Peterson once, justifies the important blue ball violence and so on, but just kind of with these kind of overall tendencies, you wonder like how much did Peterson get laid? Because Peterson is not a bad-looking guy. Let's not take that away from him. He's kind of quite the silver fox, And back in the day, I mean, he must have not looked horrible. I mean, he's articulate, he's well educated. And yet I suspect with Peterson, when a lady would go on a date with him, she would be like attracted with him, but then some weirdness would emerge out of him. I'm not saying anything profoundly weird, but just this kind of a sensitive, kind of emo, kind of rambling nature, man. And this is like something similar happens with myself. Like just something kind of, a little kind of weird kind of vibes, that kind of emanate from myself and Peterson that tell people fucking not to have sex with us. Maybe this is what happened, dude. If maybe I'll connect with fucking Peterson on Skype and talk about it. Back in the day, you could pay like $100 to talk to Professor Peterson for 30 minutes. Amazing. And I should have, I don't know if that's still available on his Patreon. I need to take advantage of that and just ask him about his sexual proclivities, because all of this just sounds kind of like he just married his wife and now he emotionally relies on her but has some sort of a horny bitterness to him. That's kind of what it sounds like. That's what it sounds like with the lobster. But who am I to know? Who am I to kind of attempt to crack that archetypal fucking shell of the great professor? My dudes, thank you for watching, and I'll leave you with my interactions with a cat on the 4th of July. You see, everything you're seeing right here, this is a lie, except for maybe if it bites me right now. This cat is normally not here. It's normally doesn't like to be on this bed, and it clearly wants to play. But normally it's not here. All this shows affection is a lie. It's just a complete lie. This cat doesn't like being here. The only reason it's here is why I'm here, is because there are people downstairs. Oh crap. Yeah, you see, like it normally never goes on my lap. Like it just normally never does it. It's just like a temporary behavior, Okay. I know I look like an idiot, but it really does like to bite stuff. Like it's just one of those things. Oh man. Oh right, this is such a lie. It's just like just when it needs you. Normally it just kinda hangs out downstairs and sometimes likes to just hang out downstairs and enjoy its independence. Like it never comes to my bed, never does any of this stuff. Not that I actually mind. I don't think this cat owes me anything. This cat owes me nothing at all. This cat owes me nothing fucking at all. It's just a goofy cat. There's my Arby's meal. What a goofy cat. Oh, this whole thing is such a lie. Oh, couldn't be in a better place. Except downstairs if there weren't people there, right? Yeah. Yeah, you see you see what this Get No, you can't bite me, no. Anyway, my friends, what can I tell you, man? This is kind of why I like cats. They're not linearly loyal. They're kind of transparent in their designs.